Did you know that Martin Van Buren, the 8th President of the United States, is often overlooked in history? But there's so much more to his story. Stay tuned until the end of the video for a surprising fun fact about him. You won't want to miss it. Overshadowed by his charismatic predecessor, Andrew Jackson, Van Buren's contributions to American politics are often overlooked. Yet Van Buren was no mere footnote. He was a shrewd politician, a skilled diplomat, and a pivotal figure in the development of the early American Republic. His presidency, though marred by economic hardship, offers a valuable lens through which to view the challenges and triumphs of a young nation grappling with its identity. Martin Van Buren is often credited as the architect of the Democratic Party as we know it today. While his predecessor, Andrew Jackson, is often seen as the figurehead of the Democratic Party, it was Van Buren who provided the organizational skills and political acumen to transform a loose coalition of Jeffersonian Republicans into a powerful and enduring political force. Van Buren understood that to achieve lasting political success, one needed more than just charisma and popular appeal. Indeed, Van Buren's strategy was to build a robust party infrastructure that could mobilize voters and sustain political momentum over the long term. Martin Van Buren's story begins far from the halls of power, in the quiet village of Kinderhook, New York. Born on December 5, 1782, Van Buren entered a world far removed from the refined elegance and political intrigue that would later define his life. Kinderhook, nestled along the banks of the Hudson River, was a world of rolling farmland, modest homes, and a close-knit community where Dutch heritage ran deep. The Dutch language, a vestige of New York's colonial past, was commonly spoken in Van Buren's childhood home, a testament to the enduring influence of his family's roots. Van Buren's parents, Abraham Van Buren and Maria Hose Van Allen Van Buren, were hard-working and respected members of the Kinderhook community. Abraham, a farmer and tavern owner, instilled in his son the values of hard work, perseverance, and a deep connection to the land. Martin Van Buren's formal education was limited, reflecting the realities of rural life in early America. He attended the village schoolhouse, where he received a basic education in reading, writing, and arithmetic. However, Van Buren possessed a sharp intellect and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. He devoured books, newspapers, and any other printed material he could get his hands on, supplementing his formal education with a self-directed course of study. He immersed himself in the works of Enlightenment thinkers, political philosophers, and classical literature, developing a keen understanding of history, government, and the principles of democracy. The turn of the 19th century was a time of great political ferment in the United States. The young nation was still finding its footing, grappling with questions of national identity, economic policy, and the balance of power between the federal government and the states. The two dominant political parties, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, engaged in fierce debates over the direction of the country, their rivalry shaping the political landscape for a generation. Martin Van Buren, coming of age in this era of political awakening, was drawn to the fray, his legal training and keen intellect finding a natural outlet in the world of politics. Van Buren's political sympathies aligned with the Democratic Republican Party, the party of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. The Democratic Republicans, espousing principles of limited government, states' rights, and agrarian democracy, resonated with Van Buren's own upbringing and worldview. He believed in the importance of empowering the common man, limiting the influence of the wealthy elite, and preserving the agrarian character of the nation. Martin Van Buren's rise in New York politics coincided with a period of significant transformation in the state's political landscape. The old guard of aristocratic families who had long dominated New York politics was facing a growing challenge from a new breed of politicians, men of more humble origins who championed the interests of the common man. Van Buren, with his sharp intellect, political acumen, and growing network of supporters, positioned himself at the forefront of this political realignment. He recognized that to achieve lasting political power, one needed more than just a popular appeal. One needed a well-organized political machine, a network of loyal supporters, and a disciplined approach to governance. In the early 1820s, Van Buren, along with a group of like-minded Democratic Republicans, formed what would become known as the Albany Regency. Martin Van Buren's mastery of New York politics, honed in the crucible of the Albany Regency, propelled him to greater prominence within the state. In 1812, at the age of 30, he won election to the New York State Senate, representing his home district. The young senator, known for his sharp intellect and keen understanding of the law, quickly made a name for himself in the legislative chamber. He immersed himself in the intricacies of state policy, mastering the complexities of legislation, and engaging in vigorous debates on issues ranging from banking regulations to internal improvements. Van Buren's tenure in the state Senate coincided with a period of significant growth and transformation for New York. Navigating the currents of national politics. As Martin Van Buren's star rose in New York, the national political landscape was undergoing a period of significant transformation. The War of 1812 had fostered a sense of national unity, but underlying tensions over slavery, regionalism, and the balance of power between the federal government and the states continued to simmer. The Federalist Party, weakened by its opposition to the war and its association with New England elites, was in decline. Meanwhile, the Democratic Republican Party, though dominant, struggled to maintain its grip on power due to internal divisions. In 1816, James Monroe, a Democratic Republican from Virginia, was elected president, ushering in what became known as the era of good feelings. The election of 1824, a turning point. The 1824 presidential election proved to be a watershed moment in American political history, marking the end of the era of good feelings and ushering in a new era of partisan strife and sectional rivalry. The election also had a profound impact on Martin Van Buren's career, setting in motion a chain of events that would ultimately propel him to the presidency. The election featured four main candidates, all of whom claimed allegiance to the Democratic Republican Party: Andrew Jackson, the hero of the Battle of New Orleans; John Quincy Adams, the incumbent Secretary of State; Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House of Representatives; and William H. Crawford, the Secretary of the Treasury. The absence of a clear party nominee reflected the deep divisions within the Democratic Republican Party, as well as the growing influence of sectionalism in national politics. Andrew Jackson, a popular war hero and charismatic figure, emerged from the election with the most popular votes and the most electoral votes. However, he failed to secure a majority in the Electoral College as required by the Constitution. Forging a new Democratic Party. The 1824 presidential election had exposed the deep fissures within the Democratic Republican Party. The party, once united behind the principles of Thomas Jefferson, was now fractured along sectional and ideological lines. Recognizing the need for a more unified and disciplined party, Van Buren seized the opportunity to reshape the political landscape. He envisioned a new kind of political party, one that would transcend sectional differences, embrace the principles of mass democracy, and challenge the entrenched power of the elites. Working behind the scenes with his characteristic political skill, Van Buren began to build a coalition of Jackson supporters, disaffected Crawfordites, and others who shared his vision for a more democratic and populist party. And so, the groundwork for the modern Democratic Party was laid, with Van Buren playing a pivotal role in its formation. The election of Andrew Jackson in 1828 marked a turning point in American history, ushering in an era of expanded suffrage, heightened partisanship, and a more assertive executive branch. Martin Van Buren, the architect of Jackson's victory, played a pivotal role in shaping the policies and ideology of Jacksonian democracy. As Jackson's closest advisor and confidant, Van Buren wielded immense influence within the administration, earning the nickname the Red Fox of Kinderhook for his political acumen and strategic brilliance. One of the hallmarks of Jacksonian democracy was its emphasis on expanding suffrage. Martin Van Buren's appointment as Andrew Jackson's Secretary of State in 1829 marked a turning point in his career, elevating him to the forefront of American foreign policy at a time of significant international challenges and opportunities. Though he lacked prior experience in diplomacy, Van Buren possessed the intellect, political acumen, and unwavering commitment to national interests that would serve him well in this new role. He approached his duties with characteristic thoroughness, immersing himself in the complexities of international relations and demonstrating a keen understanding of the delicate balance of power on the world stage. One of Van Buren's early successes as Secretary of State was the negotiation of a trade agreement with Great Britain that reopened the British West Indies to American ships. While Martin Van Buren excelled in the realm of international diplomacy, his tenure as Secretary of State was not without its share of domestic political intrigue.
The Petticoat affair, as it came to be known, was a social scandal that rocked the Jackson administration, exposing the deep personal divisions within the president's inner circle and threatening to derail my political ambitions.
This scandal tested our administration, revealing the delicate balance and the personal tensions that existed within our ranks.
The Petticoat affair was more than just a social scandal. It was a political crisis that underscored the complexities and challenges of maintaining unity within the president's inner circle.
The Petticoat affair, far from fading away, continued to fester within the Jackson administration, its tendrils reaching into the highest levels of government and threatening to unravel the president's agenda. Andrew Jackson's patience wore thin due to the relentless gossip and social ostracism directed at Peggy Eaton. He resolved to put an end to this scandal once and for all. Jackson demanded that his cabinet members and their wives accept Peggy Eaton into Washington society, believing that his authority as president extended to dictating the social behavior of his subordinates. He declared, "You must accept Peggy Eaton into Washington society. My authority as president extends to dictating the social behavior of my subordinates." Jackson's ultimatum, however, backfired spectacularly. Martin Van Buren's diplomatic sojourn to Great Britain proved to be short-lived. Andrew Jackson was eager to reward Van Buren's loyalty and recognize his political skills. In the spring of 1832, with the presidential election looming, Jackson engineered Van Buren's nomination as the Democratic candidate for vice president. The move surprised some, as Van Buren had only recently departed for London and was not actively seeking the office. However, Jackson, determined to have Van Buren by his side for a second term, orchestrated a masterful political campaign that secured his protégé's nomination at the Democratic National Convention in Baltimore. The 1832 election, though overshadowed by the ongoing controversy over the Second Bank of the United States, proved to be another triumph for Jacksonian democracy. As Andrew Jackson's second term as president drew to a close, Martin Van Buren's position as his heir apparent became increasingly clear. Having vanquished his political enemies and consolidated his control over the Democratic Party, Jackson was determined to ensure that his legacy of limited government, states' rights and democratic reform continued after he left office. He saw in Van Buren, his loyal lieutenant and the architect of his political success, the ideal candidate to carry the mantle of Jacksonian democracy forward into the future. In the spring of 1835, with the presidential election still more than a year away, Jackson made his intentions known. He publicly endorsed Van Buren as his chosen successor. And with that, the stage was set for Martin Van Buren to step into the highest office in the land. Martin Van Buren's presidency began under the shadow of an impending economic crisis, a storm that would engulf his administration and cast a long shadow over his legacy. Just 2 months after his inauguration in March 1837, the American economy was rocked by the panic of 1837, a financial meltdown that plunged the nation into a deep and prolonged depression.
The panic, triggered by a complex interplay of factors, including over-speculation in land, risky lending practices by state banks, and a decline in cotton prices, exposed the fragility of the American economy and the limits of Jacksonian economic policies.
Van Buren, a firm believer in limited government intervention in the economy, initially hesitated to take decisive action to address the crisis. He adhered to the Jacksonian principle of hard money, opposing government intervention in the banking system and favouring a currency backed by gold and silver rather than paper money issued by banks.
However, as the panic deepened and the economy spiraled downward, Van Buren faced mounting pressure to act. Businesses were failing, unemployment was soaring, and bread riots erupted in major cities as desperate citizens struggled to survive.
The panic of 1837 and the ensuing economic depression forced Martin Van Buren to confront one of the most contentious issues of his era, the role of banking in the American economy. Andrew Jackson's battle with the Second Bank of the United States had left the nation without a central bank, and the banking system was a patchwork of state-chartered banks with varying degrees of solvency and regulation. Van Buren, though initially reluctant to expand the federal government's role in banking, came to believe that a more stable and reliable financial system was essential to the nation's long-term economic health. In 1837, Van Buren proposed a radical solution to the nation's banking woes: the independent Treasury system. This system, as envisioned by Van Buren, would remove federal government funds from private banks and place them in independent government vaults, known as sub-treasuries. While Martin Van Buren grappled with the economic crisis gripping the nation, another tragedy was unfolding on the western frontier, one that would forever tarnish the legacy of Andrew Jackson and cast a long shadow over Van Buren's presidency: the forced removal of Native American tribes from their ancestral lands in the Southeast. The Cherokee Nation, one of the so-called 5 civilized tribes of the Southeast, had resisted removal, challenging the legality of the government's actions in court. In the landmark case of Worcester v. Van Buren, though he had played a key role in shaping Jackson's Indian removal policy as Secretary of State, inherited a situation far more complex and tragic than he could have anticipated. The Indian Removal Act of 1830, a cornerstone of Jackson's presidency, had set in motion a brutal and inhumane policy of ethnically cleansing the southeast of its indigenous population, opening up millions of acres of land for white settlement. The Canadian rebellions and diplomatic tensions with Britain. Martin Van Buren's presidency was also marked by a series of diplomatic challenges, most notably the Canadian rebellions of 1837 to 1838, which threatened to embroil the United States in a conflict with Great Britain. The rebellions, sparked by discontent with British rule in Upper and Lower Canada, which are present-day Ontario and Quebec, exposed the lingering tensions between the United States and its northern neighbour. These tensions were a legacy of the War of 1812 and ongoing border disputes. The United States, officially neutral in the conflict, found it difficult to remain aloof from the turmoil on its northern border. The election of 1840, a campaign of slogans and symbolism. The 1840 presidential election marked a turning point in American political history. The election ended Martin Van Buren's presidency as he fell victim to a well-organized Whig campaign. The Whigs nominated William Henry Harrison, a hero of the War of 1812 and the Battle of Tippecanoe. Harrison was portrayed as a humble frontiersman in contrast to Van Buren. The Whig campaign was a masterpiece of political theatre and public relations. A legacy overshadowed Van Buren's place in history. Martin Van Buren's presidency, though brief and overshadowed by economic hardship, left an enduring legacy on American politics and governance. Often overlooked or dismissed as a mere caretaker of Andrew Jackson's legacy, Van Buren was a shrewd politician, a skilled diplomat, and a dedicated public servant who navigated a turbulent period in American history with pragmatism and a deep commitment to democratic principles. Van Buren's most significant achievement as president was undoubtedly the establishment of the independent Treasury system. Though short-lived and controversial in its time, the independent Treasury represented a significant departure from traditional Jacksonian economic policies and a bold attempt to reform the nation's financial system. Van Buren's vision of a more stable and equitable financial system, one that served the interests of all Americans, not just the wealthy and well-connected, remains relevant today. The sting of defeat in the 1840 election, a campaign marked by unprecedented levels of vitriol and personal attacks, left Martin Van Buren deeply disillusioned with the state of American politics. Having tasted the pinnacle of power and endured the harsh realities of partisan warfare, Van Buren sought solace and respite in the familiar comforts of his beloved Lindenwold, his estate in Kinderhook, New York. A place to lick his wounds, reflect on his experiences, and reconnect with the simpler rhythms of rural life. Lindenwold, with its sprawling grounds, elegant architecture, and serene setting along the banks of the Hudson River, offered Van Buren a sanctuary from the tumult of Washington, D.C. retirement, however, did not equate to idleness for the former president. While Martin Van Buren enjoyed the relative tranquility of life at Lindenwold, the nation he had once led was becoming increasingly fractured over the issue of slavery. The delicate balance of power between slave and free states, carefully maintained through compromise and political maneuvering for decades, was unraveling as the nation expanded westward, forcing a confrontation with the moral and political implications of slavery's expansion. The annexation of Texas in 1845 and the subsequent Mexican-American War, which resulted in the acquisition of vast new territories in the Southwest, reignited the debate over slavery with a vengeance. Southerners, eager to expand the realm of slavery and protect their economic and political power, demanded that these new territories be open to slavery. Northerners, increasingly opposed to the institution of slavery on moral and economic grounds, resisted these demands, arguing that slavery should be confined to its existing boundaries and eventually abolished. The debate over slavery's expansion permeated every aspect of American life, from Congress to the pulpit to the dinner table. The escalating sectional tensions over slavery, culminating in the Compromise of 1850, a series of measures designed to appease both North and South, but which ultimately satisfied neither, created a political opening for a new party dedicated to opposing the expansion of slavery, the Free Soil Party. The Free Soil Party, drawing support from disaffected Democrats, anti-slavery Whigs and members of the Liberty Party, nominated Martin Van Buren as their presidential candidate in the 1848 election. Van Buren's decision to accept the Free Soil nomination, a move that surprised many and angered his former allies in the Democratic Party, was a testament to his evolving views on slavery and his unwavering commitment to preserving the Union. He had come to believe that the expansion of slavery posed an existential threat to the nation, and he was willing to sacrifice his political future to take a stand against it. The Free Soil Party's platform, encapsulated in the slogan, "Free soil, free speech, free labor and free men," resonated with a growing segment of the northern electorate. Martin Van Buren's journey from the taverns of Kinderhook to the highest office in the land is a testament to the enduring promise of American democracy. While his presidency is marked by economic hardship and political turmoil, Van Buren's legacy extends beyond the Panic of 1837. He was a shrewd political strategist and a master organizer who left an indelible mark on American politics. Van Buren shaped the modern Democratic Party, transforming it into a disciplined and enduring political force. Though often criticized, his presidency was marked by a deep commitment to democratic principles. He navigated domestic and international crises with a steady hand, preserving the Union and upholding the Constitution. Van Buren's story, a testament to intellect and determination, continues to resonate, reminding us that true leadership lies in building consensus and navigating complex challenges. As we conclude our journey through the life and legacy of Martin Van Buren, let's take a moment to explore some intriguing fun facts about this often overlooked president. Fun fact 1. Martin Van Buren was the first president to be born a US citizen. Unlike his predecessors, who were born before the American Revolution, Van Buren was born in 1782, making him the first true American-born president. Fun fact 2. Known for his impeccable style, Van Buren was often referred to as the Little Magician due to his political prowess and the Red Fox of Kinderhook for his cunning strategies. His flair for fashion and sharp political acumen made him a standout figure in Washington, D.C. These fun facts offer a lighter glimpse into the life of a man whose influence on American politics remains significant to this day. From his birth as a US citizen to his stylish demeanor and clever political maneuvers, Martin Van Buren continues to be a fascinating figure in American history. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical insight.